I see we've got the dreaded right after lunch on the last day time slot, so hopefully we'll try and keep this light and entertaining for you. As mentioned, my name's Steve Currie. I'm with an organization called Communitech up near Toronto in a place called Waterloo. I'll get into a little bit of background there for you in a minute. What I hope to share with you today was some tips and tricks and some tools that we've learned about working with organizations, both small and big, about helping them become a little more innovative. And when we look at the customer success role in an organization, you are really poised or placed in the perfect position to not only drive innovation internally within your organizations, but also help your customers in that regard as well. So we'll hopefully explore a little bit of that. Just before I get rolling here, how many of you are in a SaaS-based organization? Okay, good chunk. How many of you then meet face-to-face with your customers? Okay, most people, good. So you're not all bots yet. It's coming. Good stuff. How many of you work in organizations that might be fewer than 500 people? Okay, so a mix. So hopefully, size-wise, you probably still have some of that startup DNA in your organization as well. We want to kind of tap into some of those kinds of key attributes as well as we go. All right, maybe just to set the stage a little bit. 60 years ago, there was this dream about being able to drive down the highway and actually play Scrabble in your car, and it magically drove itself. And it's kind of funny that now we can do that, but nobody really remembers the game of Scrabble itself. And the key message here is really about the fact that the world is changing, your customers are changing, and it's really, these days, focused around speed and disruption. And that's what we're hearing so many times from certainly companies as they grow and they get bigger. Maybe just to step back a sec then, Communitech, I'll give you just a little frame of reference about what we do and why I'm here speaking to you. We're an organization based in Waterloo, Canada. It's near Toronto, and we are a not-for-profit organization. We work with a lot of startups or emerging companies as well as big companies, and our mission is really to help tech companies to start and to grow and succeed. So we provide a lot of mentoring and coaching services. We provide some incubation services. And we also work with some big companies as well and provide innovation labs. So some of the organizations that you might recognize with some of these brands, we work a lot with some of these organizations to, one, help them be more innovative in their innovation labs, but also connect them into younger companies and smaller companies. Because one of the things, and particularly if you're a smaller organization, you might find it a little bit challenging penetrating or getting inside some of these bigger organizations. So we try to make it a little bit easier for the little guys to connect with the bigger guys. And just a little bit about Waterloo, because I know probably most of you haven't heard of a place called Waterloo. But a good, strong tech ecosystem. We've got lots of startups, and our university colleges there provide a lot of engineers to Silicon Valley. So it's actually the second highest source as far as schools go. Okay, let's get back to this concept of innovation. And really, it's this concept of rapidly translating your ideas into action is where the competitive advantage is. And just by way of example about how hard it is to do this as an organization is when you look at the Fortune 500 or the S&P 500, the average tenure now of a company on that list is about 12 to 13 years. So a few years ago, it was much longer than that, and that time frame is shrinking. So it's very hard to stay on top, and it's very hard to drive your growth. But really, the customer success function is, as I said, poised to be able to capitalize on your role in the organization. And really, it's tapping into these tools such as the lean startup concept. So is everybody familiar, or how many people are familiar with lean? A few. Okay, so that's build, measure, learn, and cycle through it again. So this is one of the kind of the underpinnings that we work with our companies on. as far as trying to get them to be a little bit more nimble and being able to iterate quickly around some new ideas. But the customer success function really is at the heart of this because one, obviously you're interacting with your customer groups, but then you're able to feed that back into the different parts of the organization. So really it's, your role is the conduit for that. The other concept here is that you have to be open to new ideas as an organization. Just curious, your organizations, how many people think your organization is open to new ideas? Okay, a few, well, most, okay, that's good. Interestingly, how the bigger we get, the harder it is to maybe be open to these kinds of things. What a crazy concept a few years ago that you would actually look at your pictures on like a television screen or a monitor. And lo and behold, Kodak had this wrapped up, but was unable to capitalize it and to leverage their pull. I guess they had a Kodak Moment and weren't able to capitalize on this, unfortunately. So when we talk about a Nimble Hippo company, and this is something that as you grow is really critical. I mean, one of the things is we hear from companies is that we're too big, we can't move fast enough, but you also have a lot of key strengths around that. And so being big is the fact that you do have scale and you can leverage some of the resources that some of your smaller competitors can't. On the flip side, if you're small, you're often a little more agile that way. But to be nimble, you also have to be smart. You have to understand what you've got and leverage that and then recognize what you don't have and change it. Curious, always being curious, and that's, again, getting back to the customer success function, is curious about what the needs of your customers are. And we've heard a lot over the last couple of days about the need to partner, about the need to understand customer needs. And it's critical at this point that you do understand that need, you understand that customer journey that your customers are going through to help them, and then be able to respond in kind. So we talk about partner. And then, as you're creating this kind of environment in your organization, you also become a talent magnet as well. And that's where your ability to attract talent is key. I don't know about your organizations, but every company we seem to talk to says talent is probably the #1 key issue for them as far as attracting and retaining good people. So being part of that kind of nimble culture is a key competitive advantage. So I just wanted to share with you a couple of examples of some of the, the organizations we work with and what they're trying to do. So some of the big companies are just saying, it's so hard to get stuff done, to get shit done in their organization. So how can they do that? So a lot of it is adopting some of these kind of concepts around startup and the whole notion of failing fast, but learning from that. Okay, so that, again, it gets back to that culture of it's okay to fail, but you better learn. You can't just kind of repeat the same things over and over again. And getting outside, talking to your customers is absolutely critical. And how you feed that back into the organization is pretty key as well. So when you look at platforms like Totango, Zoe, these are the kinds of things that are really critical for that. So, one of the companies that we work with is TD Bank, and they set up a little kind of offsite lab, and they, embarked on rapid prototyping. So in the first 2 months of opening their lab, they created 6 prototypes that were adopted back into the organization. There, they said that would have taken them 2 years to do, and probably at 10x the cost of creating that. So it's finding what works for you as an organization and being able to leverage that. When we look at some of the tools, we talk about the Lean Startup. Google Ventures Design Sprint is another one. Design thinking is anybody familiar with design thinking? Use it in your organization. Okay, a couple of. So all of these tools here that we've mentioned at the bottom are available on the web, no charge. You can access those and leverage them. And they're meant to be simple and easy to use. So something like the business model canvas is a 1-page version of your business plan. And that's what a lot of startups use, but it's a way to condense that key pieces of information and get them down on 1 page. Creating ambidextrous leaders and teams. We look at, this is really critical for the new way that companies are doing business, and the ability to, we say, walk and chew gum at the same time, but innovate and execute. And knowing that execution is absolutely critical, but you also have to have that innovation hat on, and responding quickly to, new opportunities as they arise. So a good example would be the Adobe Kickbox program. Anybody heard of that? Familiar with that? So Adobe created this program that allows any person in the organization, from kind of the reception right up to the CEO, to participate in an innovation activity. And they've made this available as an open license, no charge, for download. So any organization can take what they've done and bring it into their own organization. So it's a nice and easy way of packaging this concept of how you can be innovative and come up with an idea in your organization and create actual like a business case for that. So some of the things, again, we talk about Kickbox. GE is combining, they've got a program called FastWorks, which combines the concept of lean with Six Sigma, knowing that you have to have both the execution and the innovation piece of that as well. And then the whole concept of injecting startup DNA into your organization. So as you grow, it's harder and harder. You lose sight of your roots, and so the concept is that how do you inject that back in? And an example might be General Motors. So they're looking at the problem, what do customers actually want? And a big piece of it is the sharing economy. And so they've looked at alternative means, and some of you may be familiar with these, but alternative means around autonomous vehicles. What does this world look like in that case? They've made a big investment in Lyft, which is an Uber competitor. They're very big into e-bikes. They envision a time when people will be buying e-bikes as much as cars themselves. And this concept of sharing. So they've launched in the US and in Canada, I think in 17 cities now, this car sharing service called Maven. And you can imagine that this is totally disruptive to their internal world, and particularly their dealer network. Their dealer network may not be the most thrilled with this, but they are testing and trying some things that they know will have an impact down the road. So it's great to protect your core business, but you have to also be looking at what opportunities there might be down the road. So they're dabbling, they're investigating, and they've got some of these things there. So how do you actually conceptualize this? One of the models we use is a model from McKinsey, and it's called the 3 Horizons. And in the first horizon is where you focus on execution and operational excellence. And in most companies or organizations, this is probably 85 to 90% of your efforts. This is your core business. This is the things that pays the bills on a regular basis. But so you've got a good chunk of people focused on that. Horizon 2 is more about tweaking your business model and coming up with some new products and ideas. So again, this is probably 8%. And then the last is something that's really crazy and disruptive that might come about in the next 3 to 5 years. So having those kinds of activities in your organization, and again, I come back to your role as customer success professionals is really critical to driving this kind of behavior, but also the inputs that are required for your organization to be successful. And so then just when you translate this to the people piece, you need all 3 kinds of people in your organization. You need the people that are really good at executing and can really deliver the results. Where I see probably many of the people in this room probably lie is in Horizon 2, where you wear a bit of both. You're interacting a lot with customers, you're understanding their needs, you're understanding what's going on in the marketplace, but then you're also translating that back into your organization and being able to tweak and influence where the business is going. Horizon 3, these are the crazy idea people that are saying, well, this is the direction things might be going in the next little bit. Okay, so I just wanted to wrap up here and say, to be successful, be fast, learn from your experiments, and be open to new ideas. Also thinking differently. You're looking at, this is a highly competitive environment. I'm sure everybody in the room has competitors. And so how might you be different, and how might you get that leg up on your competition? getting the right people doing the right things. So if somebody's really good at executing, don't put them over here in Horizon 2. Keep them in Horizon 1 and focus on what they do best. And then this concept, particularly on the leadership side, is walking and chewing gum at the same time, being open and always aware of the opportunities for innovation. So with that, I thank you very much for your time. Appreciate the opportunity to speak to you. Thanks.